With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown. Our top stories: Jesus Valdez charged in Newton Ground double murder case. Former Prime Minister Harris raises alarm over budget deficits in St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Joel Clark celebrates achievements in climate financing efforts for the Federation. Guyana's opposition parties decry plight of the poor in Christmas message. Prime Minister Pierre links port congestion to rapid economic growth. St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority raises alarms. Internationally, Kenyan herders swapping cows for camels to cope with severe drought. Now, the details. Jesus Valdez, a resident of John Street in Newtown, St. Kitts, has been formally charged with 2 additional counts of murder following the tragic deaths of 30-year-old Devon Paris and 9-year-old Jamarni Smithen. The gruesome incident took place on August 1, 2024 in Newton Ground, St. Kitts, and has sent shockwaves through the local community. Valdez's recent charges were filed on December 23rd at the Bastyr police station. This comes after he was charged on December 12, 2024 for another murder, that of 18-year-old Crisbel Rivera from Carty Alley, which occurred on April 17, 2024. Initial reports on the double homicide indicated that on the evening of August 1, 2024, Paris and Smithen left a family member's house to attend a birthday party at the Caribbean Cinema, but never arrived. Concern grew when attempts to contact them were unsuccessful, and a citizen discovered their vehicle early the following day in some bushes near Newton Ground Bay. Upon investigation, the police found both victims inside the red Honda Fit, suffering from apparent gunshot wounds to the head. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force continues to investigate the circumstances behind this shocking double murder and has urged anyone with relevant information to step forward to assist in bringing clarity to this case. During the recent budget debates for 2025, former Prime Minister and leader of the People's Labour Party, PLP, the Honourable Dr. Timothy Harris, expressed a profound concern about the government's projected budget deficits, underscoring a critical issue facing the nation. Addressing the Assembly, he emphasized the importance of closely examining the government's projections, which indicate a staggering deficit of $237.8 million for 2024. Harris articulated the gravity of the situation by stating,
"The government for 2024, it's predicting by its own report a huge sum of $237 million in 2024. And if we thought that was bad, it gets worse."
According to Harris, this alarming prediction is accompanied by a further projected deficit of $28.5 million for 2025, leading to a combined deficit of almost $300 million over 2 years. He expressed disbelief that such deficits could arise when, in his view, there are no significant developmental projects or emergencies like COVID-19 to account for such financial mismanagement. Key to Harris's argument is the apparent lack of accountability from the current government.
We need to know, for in the absence of an extraordinary development in the country, how do we explain that kind of reckless development in St. Kitts and Nevis?
He questioned demanding transparent explanations for the overspending reflected in the draft estimates. Harris pointed out the projected drop in revenues, particularly from the Citizenship by Investment (CBI) program, which is expected to decline by $305 million from the previous year's earnings. Harris criticized the government's approach to economic management, highlighting that the economy, which had grown by 9%, is now projected to grow only by 1.5% in 2024. There are hopes of a slight recovery to 2.5% in 2025.
An economy that we left, which grew by 9%, has fallen to 1.5% in 2024. And we hope that in 2025, their prediction of 2.5% would be realized.
He suggested, pointing toward a worrying trend of stagnation and fiscal irresponsibility. In his statement, Harris addressed the broader implications of these deficits for citizens' everyday lives. Harris lamented the rampant inflation that has made necessities increasingly unaffordable.
Nobody seemed to be concerned that people go to Value Mart, to Rams, to Best Buy, and in every shop, and they are embarrassed at how little they can afford.
He noted, connecting the government's financial failures directly to the struggles faced by ordinary families. Moreover, Harris highlighted the current administration's perceived negligence regarding public expenditures. He took particular issue with the government's plan to allocate $14 million for a museum honoring a national hero, arguing that such spending is inappropriate when many citizens struggle to meet their basic needs.
You are going to tell me 45, 46 years after my death, we are spending money to create what? An illusion, a dream, when the very actions of the man who you're attempting to pay tribute to are contrary to what you're doing.
The former Prime Minister, in his remarks, urged the government to reconsider its priorities and approach to economic management.
The best Christmas gift we will have is when this incompetent government goes away,
he declared, further iterating a call for transparency and action to alleviate the financial burdens facing the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. As the budget discussions concluded, Dr. Harris's questions are in the minds of citizens who are eager for clarity and accountability regarding their government's fiscal management. How the current administration will respond to these challenges remains to be seen. St. Kitts and Nevis is making significant strides in climate financing as outlined in the remarks by the Honourable Dr. Joel Clark, the Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action and Constituency Empowerment. Addressing the Parliament during the 2025 budget debates on December 18, 2024, Dr. Clark emphasized the importance of international partnerships and collaboration in advancing the nation's environmental goals.
We must always be responsible and don't allow people who are paid for slander to fool you, to misconstrue, and to turn the work of our ministry into what it is not.
She stated, highlighting the ministry's dedication to fostering genuine relationships with global partners for sustainable development. Dr. Clark reported that the Green Climate Fund, GCF, has been a pivotal ally in funding climate initiatives within the Federation. Since its inception, the GCF has approved over $16 million in climate mitigation projects, particularly those that benefit Nevis's geothermal drilling campaign through the Sustainable Energy Facility for the Eastern Caribbean. Additionally, $5.3 million in readiness financing has been allocated to enhance local institutions' capacity to tackle climate challenges effectively. These efforts include preparing financial institutions for accreditation, conducting vulnerability assessments across key sectors like tourism and agriculture, and establishing comprehensive frameworks for national climate governance. Dr. Clark underscored that these advancements were only possible through meaningful collaboration with regional and international partners. The minister also detailed future initiatives further to solidify St. Kitts and Nevis's commitment to sustainability. A notable project is formulating a national adaptation plan with a budget of $3 million set to launch in early 2025. This plan will focus on institutional reforms and legislative reviews essential for adapting to climate change. Moreover, Dr. Clark expressed gratitude to the government of India for supporting small businesses through grant funding that could amount to $1 million per project. As the Federation prepares to host several high-profile conferences in 2025, including the Green Climate Fund Regional Dialogue and the Global Sustainable Island Summit, Dr. Clark's narrative encapsulates a year filled with achievements and a forward-looking perspective aimed at strengthening St. Kitts and Nevis's status as a regional leader in climate resilience and sustainable development. In her concluding remarks, Dr. Clark noted that the total funds committed to the Federation for various resilience projects has reached over $113 million US. This includes investment in the fishery sector, biodiversity protection, and land management. The Climate Action Minister reiterated the need for active participation in securing international funding, emphasizing,
"We have to go get it. So don't let nobody who is paid to slander the work of the ministry of environment, sustainable development, climate action, constituency empowerment, parks and beaches, and solid waste management. We don't work and we don't bring in the money. Some of them nearly get all this money to put nonsense on the internet about the work that we are doing. But after a year of not responding to you, this was an adequate response, was it not? $113,557,654.32 for US dollars for St. Kitts and Nevis.
As St. Kitts and Nevis transition towards sustainable island development, the comprehensive strategies and funding initiatives outlined by Dr. Clark highlight the government's proactive approach to addressing climate change challenges effectively through collaboration and innovation. In regional news, Guyana's opposition parties decry plight of the poor in Christmas message, Guyana News source reports.
The opposition People's National Congress Reform and the Alliance for Change have extended Christmas greetings, but they said many Guyanese are celebrating with heavy hearts. The AFC in its message said thousands of Guyanese, including pensioners and public service workers, are still without their cash grant. It said the government's failure to deliver on its promise of $100,000 to every citizen is not just disappointing. It means that for many, especially the poorest among us, they will not have the opportunity to enjoy as they ought to in the oil-rich country. The party said as Guyanese celebrate, it is also important to reflect on what kind of Guyana they would like to build. The Alliance for Change said the government has shown time and time again its priorities do not lie with the people. The AFC said the government's negligence and dishonesty continue to deny Guyanese the prosperity that they deserve. The party said Christmas is also a time of hope and renewal, and as Guyanese prepare to usher in the new year, it is also important for them to resolve to work together to ensure that next year marks the beginning of real change. In a separate message, the PNC Reform, while extending its greetings, said the season provides an opportunity for reflection. The party said lawlessness, greed, and misplaced priorities from individuals in positions of power have left many Guyanese struggling. Adding that while a select few enjoy a bright and merry season, the backbone of the nation, the working class, and the grassroots people face uncertainty, wondering if they can provide the Christmas joy their families deserve. The party said Guyanese continue to face a number of challenges, including frequent power outages and water disruption. The PNC said as partners in democracy, governance, and equity, it will return to government next year.
Prime Minister Pierre links port congestion to rapid economic growth. St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority raises alarms. DBS St. Lucia has the details.
The St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, SLASPA, has highlighted a serious issue at the Castres port where there is insufficient space to store cargo. This situation has created a pressing need for improved logistics, infrastructure upgrades, and strategic planning to meet the high import volume. During his end-of-year press conference, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre was asked about the government's plans to tackle this growing problem. He acknowledged that the government had been caught off guard.
The country has been a victim of its own success. That's what happened to us. We are victim of our own success. The volume of imports is unprecedented. So we never planned. And again, it's always good to have hindsight, 2020 hindsight. We never planned for this massive increase in imports. We never planned for that massive increase in terms of infrastructure. There's a hotel that's going up where they just cannot get bill of material. So the economic expansion has almost caught us flat-footed, and that's a fact.
The storage issue at the Castres port has been a concern raised by multiple administrations over the years. Various discussions have aimed to explore potential solutions to this ongoing challenge. One of the proposals has been relocating cargo operations to the Buckeye Terminal in Cul-de-Sac. This move would enable the Castres port to function exclusively as a cruise port. In addition to this proposal, there has been ongoing dialogue surrounding the need for upgrades to the port facilities in V4. At his press conference, the Prime Minister acknowledged the necessity of expanding the Castres port to accommodate the growing import volumes. However, he did not provide specific details regarding infrastructure upgrades.
That is why when we segregated the tourism part And the cargo part was to allow the cargo part more leverage to be able to expand their operations. So right now, the debt that SLASPA had, as it entailed the cruise part of their business, that has been paid. Port Vifort plans to look at Port Vifort are ongoing. They're ongoing. But we've released ourselves from the debt of the cruise. So next year, we're going to begin looking at the plans for the expansion of both of these ports. But it's a crucial situation. I mean, there's the ports are busting at the seams. The importers are complaining, consumers are complaining, because we are part of that expansion was not expected, and we caught with our flat-footed.
The Prime Minister said the new equipment will aid in the development of the port's infrastructure and help alleviate some of the pressure. For the DBS News World, St. Romulus reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
It's a big day for Lenaru Megashu. His communities depended on herding cows for millennia. For the first time in his life, he's going to get a camel.
In the last drought, most of my cows died. I had 20, but I was left with 4. When the ground's dry, cows cannot feed, but the camels can raise their heads and feed on the tall trees.
The last drought was the region's worst in decades. People here in northern Kenya's Samburu County say when the rains fail, the cow is the first to die and the camel is the last.
The camels have travelled hundreds of kilometres on trucks and on foot to reach here. The county government bought them from traders near Kenya's border with Somalia. Historically, they were only kept in and around Africa's desert regions to the north of here. Changing climate is changing people's ways of life.
The 3-year drought ended last year and the acacia trees are green again. Herders like Lenaru sometimes have to walk hundreds of kilometres to find pastures beneath them that cows can graze. That leaves families at home without milk. It's the staple food for many of Africa's 200 million or so herders. It's why cows are central to the Samburu people's culture. Lenaru had to give 10 as a bride price, about half his wealth, to marry. Entire livelihoods can be lost to packs of hunting hyenas, to which camels are far less vulnerable. They can eat whatever's available and keep producing milk in a drought without going far. Long necks help. And so the elders are blessing the change. It's part of a decades-old, slow but steady regional trend, which the county government says has become essential. It's giving out 100 camels at this event.
It's one place in the world that we're experiencing global warming in real time. Things have changed, yes, for the last few years, very fast. We used to have cows here and we used to have grasses and everything.
A draw decides who's fortunate enough to get a camel that's pregnant or producing milk. Lenaru and his wife told us theirs is thin, but they'll make sure she's fed if they can.
We can only look at the skies and pray God will give us water for these animals, to flourish and to help us with milk. It's like a human. You can eat, but you do not know when you'll die.
Climate scientists say droughts will continue to become more frequent and severe. Lenaru told us he hasn't heard of climate science, but he and his neighbours expect more tough times before long, and that with camels at home, they'll be better prepared to keep their families fed. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera, Samburu County, Kenya.
Seconds before the crash in Kazakhstan, the passenger plane, an Embraer 190 aircraft, hurtles toward the ground. According to emergency officials, the Azerbaijan Airlines flight was headed from Baku to Grozny. Emergency service workers quickly converged on the scene, not far from the airport in the southwestern city of Aktau. While several have been reported dead, including both pilots, authorities also say dozens of people survived. They were seated in the tail section of the plane. Video shows rescuers pulling survivors from the wreckage.
Emergency rescue operations are currently ongoing at the present moment. Currently, 28 people are hospitalized, including 2 children. Ambulance flights are scheduled from the city of Astana to the city of Aktau.
At the airport in Grozny, one man spotted his nephew, who'd been on the flight, on a social media video showing the aftermath of the accident.
I was here. I heard about the plane crash here in the airport. People started talking, and so I heard.
Local media reports say the flight had been rerouted due to fog in Grozny. For now, with an investigation still in its initial stages, the search for more answers continues. Mohammed Jamjoom, Al Jazeera.
And Yulia Shapovalova has more now from Moscow. And Yulia, the latest word was 32 people have been rescued. Does that mean all passengers and crew have been accounted for by now?
No, we can't say that. But at the moment, we have some updates regarding the number of casualties that, according to the latest data, among the 29 survivors of the Baku-Grozny flight crashed in Aktau, 10 are Russian citizens. The fate of another 5 or 6 Russians is unknown. And it's also known that all 3 Kyrgyz citizens who had been on board the crashed plane, they survived. Also interesting that the head of the Chechen Security Council confirmed the drone attack on Chechnya this morning. All the drones were shot down. Earlier, the Chechen Ministry of Emergency Situations actually denied that the republic had been attacked by UAVs, and it's likely that the plane could have been redirected from Grozny to an alternative airfield precisely because of that UAV attack, despite the fact that there is no official information on this matter at the moment, but still it sheds some light about the causes, well, possible causes of the fate of that crashed plane. Right now, Vladimir Putin reported that the Russian Emergencies Ministry plane had flown to Aktau. That was agreed with the president of Kazakhstan. The Russian president also expressed his condolences to the relatives of the victims, and he has said that a thorough investigation will be conducted into the crash. Right now, investigators are searching for black boxes at the spot. Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev declared December the 26th a day of mourning in Azerbaijan. The Kazakh Prime Minister reported that 29 passengers are now in hospitals, while the Prosecutor General's Office of Azerbaijan has reported that 32 passengers, as you mentioned, actually survived. But obviously all those numbers may change.
It's Christmas morning in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, and people are spending it sheltering underground.
It happened so early in the morning. My sister lives in Kharkiv and said it was very loud. I feel sorry for the city.
The northern city of Kharkiv was hit 11 times in Russian missile and drone strikes, as was President Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi Rih and the city of Dnipro. The country is being attacked every day. Prayer services in churches were interrupted late on Christmas Eve as worshippers were forced to rush for shelters.
I don't have a festive mood, but we hope for victory. We will celebrate holidays later. Next year, I hope so.
The country is in its 3rd year of war and people are exhausted.
I'm a soldier, and I share the same thoughts with anyone else. 3 years of war is very tough. It's very difficult to be separated from the family. I hope that Christmas will make some people stop and make some people win and press in. I believe that peace will come. I really want to believe that peace will come next year. I hope so.
Energy infrastructure has consistently been the target of Russian strikes, as winter temperatures are set to drop even further in the weeks to come. People I've spoken to here are pretty resigned about the war. All the early optimism has pretty much evaporated as Russian forces continue to advance east. All they want now is an end to the conflict. Alex Katopoulos, Al Jazeera, Kyiv.
هيئة تحرير الشام say they're working around the clock to rehabilitate the town of Tadmur, the modern town next to the ancient city of Palmyra. Before 2011, its population was around 100,000. Now it's estimated at less than 10,000.
صفت المضايقة من داعش ومن النظام.
We suffered from both ISIL and the regime control, especially the airstrikes by Syrian and Russian aircraft that continue every day from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, throwing missiles, barrel bombs and gas bombs. It was the air bombardment that forced the people to flee the city.
Since 2014, Tadmor changed hands several times between the government and ISIS. The city is remote but geographically important. It's on the main commercial road linking Damascus in the south to the northern cities of Deir ez-Zor, Hasaka and Qamishli, some of which are under the control of the Kurdish Syria Democratic Forces. Its administrative area includes hundreds of kilometers of borders with Iraq and Jordan. Tadmor is also close to some of Syria's oil and gas wells and the railway line that facilitates transportation to and from Iraq.
Tadmor boasts huge mineral resources, including gas, phosphates and oil. Most oil and gas pipelines linking east to west pass through here. The Kurdish factions had plans to control it, and they've been trying.
ISIS controlled Tadmor on 2 separate occasions. Russia also set up a forward base here, including a facility for building and launching unmanned aircraft and drones. Hezbollah and various other Iran-backed militia established a presence here.
Israel also has left its mark here.
Burhan's most urgent task right now is to locate and remove the unbelievable amounts of explosives and ammunition that's been abandoned by the various factions.
The quantity is huge. We might not be able to remove all of the ammunition. We'll focus on the most dangerous parts, such as the explosive tips and the bombshells that are ready to launch.
The stocks include Iranian winged missile drones that can be guided to return to base if they don't hit the target. And much more concerning to HTS forces and the population is the countless amounts of mines buried in the vicinity of the city. They say they're working to neutralize that invisible threat. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera, Tadmor, Palmyra.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were: Jesus Valdez charged in Newton Ground double murder case. Former Prime Minister Harris raises alarm over budget deficits in St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Joel Clark celebrates achievements in climate financing efforts for the Federation. Guyana's opposition parties decry plight of the poor in Christmas message. Prime Minister Pierre links port congestion to rapid economic growth. St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority raises alarms. Internationally, Kenyan herders swapping cows for camels to cope with severe drought. Thank you for listening.